Welcome back to our channel, where we bring you the most intense, shocking, and unforgettable twists from the world of drama. Today we dive deep into the latest developments, a chapter so explosive it threatens to tear apart every bond, every alliance, and every illusion of trust within the gated community that has already been simmering with secrets. What unfolded tonight is not just betrayal, it is the unraveling of lives carefully built on fragile loyalties. The night begins in silence, with Haley making her way into the garden behind the mansion. The glow of golden light streaming through the tall windows paints a surreal picture, and the peaceful setting masks the storm that is about to erupt. Haley had no idea that what awaited her was not the conversation she intended to have, but the destruction of her faith in the man she trusted most. She approached quietly, her steps soft on the damp grass, the document she held clutched like a lifeline. That piece of paper was supposed to change the direction of her battles. Instead, it became irrelevant in the face of a discovery that would fracture her from the inside out. Through the glass, Haley froze. Her entire body stiffened as her eyes locked onto the figures inside. Bill leaned close to Caroline, his voice inaudible but the intimacy undeniable. His hand rested lightly on Caroline's shoulder, a gesture small in motion yet massive in implication. It was not the act itself, but the familiarity of it, the unspoken understanding between them, that cut into Haley like a blade. Time seemed to stop in that moment. The air left Haley's lungs, her vision tunneled, and the only sound she could hear was her own heartbeat hammering violently in her chest. Bill, the man she had built her trust upon, the man who symbolized unwavering strength, now appeared to her as nothing more than a fraud. Caroline, once her ally, once the person she leaned on in moments of doubt, was now transformed in her eyes into a thief of trust, an intruder in the fragile sanctuary Haley thought she had. She did not storm inside. She did not scream or demand an explanation. Instead, she took a step back, retreating into the shadows, her tears burning but unshed. She carried her pain like a weight strapped to her chest. Yet what Haley did not realize was that she was not the only observer that night. Hidden among the trees, a silent figure had watched everything, phone in hand, capturing the image that would soon explode like a grenade within the walls of the community. A photograph of Bill leaning into Caroline, frozen in time, was destined to become the weapon no one could anticipate. From that moment, nothing could remain the same. The following days were a descent into torment for Haley. She moved through the halls of her world with the poise of someone still in control, yet every glance, every whispered word reminded her of the betrayal that had been burned into her mind. Her nights were filled with restless pacing, her hands trembling as she replayed the scene over and over. She questioned herself relentlessly. Was it truly betrayal, or was it something she had twisted in her mind? Was Bill capable of such deception, or had she misread the closeness between him and Caroline? No matter how many times she attempted to reason with herself, the image remained undeniable. Meanwhile, Bill continued his daily routines, perhaps sensing Haley's coldness but dismissing it as stress or distraction. Instead of addressing the growing divide, he seemed to draw closer to Caroline. The subtle exchanges, the glances that lingered too long, the almost imperceptible touches, all of it grew bolder once the door had been opened. The quiet deceit became fuel for the rumors that began to spread. Whispers slithered through the community like smoke from a hidden fire. First in corners, then in corridors, then in the open air of casual gatherings. People exchanged looks, some of pity, some of amusement, others of quiet calculation. In a place where alliances were currency and secrets were weapons, this rumor was a fortune waiting to be spent. Haley became aware of the shift in how others looked at her. Some offered sympathetic glances that burned her pride, others smirked behind closed doors, and a few opportunists moved quickly to distance themselves from her, as though betrayal were contagious. Rage brewed within her, mingling with humiliation, until her very presence carried the heat of a storm no one could predict. She was suffocating, drowning in the knowledge that her world had tilted against her and she could no longer control the narrative. And then it happened. The photograph was released. No one knew who had posted it, but once it appeared on a private community forum, it spread like wildfire. In the span of a single evening, every phone buzzed with the same image, Bill leaning close to Caroline, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. Frozen, undeniable, indisputable. The speculation had transformed into evidence. Every whispered rumor had suddenly found a solid foundation, and Haley's nightmare was no longer confined to her own mind. It was public, irreversible, and merciless. The fallout was immediate. Bill's reputation, carefully cultivated over years of leadership and loyalty, was thrown into chaos. Caroline's name, once spoken with respect, became synonymous with betrayal in hushed conversations. And Haley was left standing in the wreckage, exposed, vulnerable, and stripped of the control she had worked so hard to maintain. But the collapse of her image did not break her. It hardened her. The fury inside Haley transformed. No longer the raw, painful wound of fresh betrayal, it became a cold, calculated fire. She understood that she could no longer rely on trust, no longer lean on the fragile bonds she thought would protect her. If they wanted to expose her, if they wanted to shame her, she would turn their weapon against them. The same community that had mocked her pain would soon witness the depths of her vengeance. In the days that followed, new fractures appeared across the gated walls. Neighbors began choosing sides. Some quietly sympathized with Haley, whispering that she deserved better, while others flocked to Bill, defending his honor, insisting the photograph was misleading. And Caroline, caught in the eye of the storm, smiled with a calmness that only infuriated her enemies further. Whether she was guilty or merely complicit no longer mattered. The damage was done, and her name was etched into scandal. The atmosphere grew toxic. At gatherings, smiles were masks hiding daggers. Every toast was laced with poison. Old alliances cracked under the pressure, exposing bitterness long buried. The betrayal had ceased to be a private matter and had instead become the stage upon which everyone projected their own fears, desires, and ambitions. And through it all, Haley sharpened her silence into a blade. She no longer wept in the darkness, she plotted. Every sleepless night became a rehearsal for retribution, every memory of Bill's hand on Caroline's shoulder another reason to strike back harder. She knew the community thrived on spectacle, and she would give them one they would never forget. But beneath the layers of rage and revenge, there was still the hollow ache of betrayal. Trust, once broken, cannot be restored. Haley carried that wound like a scar carved into her soul. It was both her greatest weakness and her most dangerous weapon. The woman who once stood as a figure of loyalty had been transformed into something far more formidable, someone willing to burn everything, even herself, if it meant watching her enemies crumble to ash. As this chapter closes, the war within the gates has only just begun. The photograph was merely the spark. The flames are spreading, consuming friendships, burning through alliances, and leaving nothing but suspicion and bitterness in their wake. Haley's decision to embrace the darkness rather than retreat into despair marks the beginning of a battle that will leave no one unscathed. And this is only the beginning. Stay with us as the secrets deepen, the betrayals cut sharper, and the lines between friend and enemy blur beyond recognition. This story is far from over, and the next revelation promises to be even more devastating. Make sure you don't miss what comes next. Follow and subscribe to our channel now, because the gates are only beginning to open, and what lies beyond will shock you to the core.